Father Seraphim Rose, an Orthodox monk and spiritual writer, is known for his careful and often uncompromising critique of Western Christianity from an Orthodox perspective. Among his assessments, he commented extensively on Saint Francis of Assisi, one of the most venerated figures in Western Christian history. Rose's evaluation of Francis is complex. While he acknowledged Francis's sincerity, ascetic zeal, and moral virtues, he also warned that Francis's spirituality exemplifies what orthodoxy calls prelest, or spiritual delusion. At the heart of Rose's critique is the idea that Francis represents a spirituality based primarily on inner experience, imagination, and emotional response, rather than on the disciplined ascetic life, obedience, and humility emphasized in the Orthodox tradition. Rose saw Francis as deeply sincere, but also as vulnerable to the dangers of spiritual deception, because his path relied heavily on personal visions, mystical feelings, and direct communication with God, without the guiding framework of spiritual elders or rigorous ascetic oversight. In Orthodox understanding, such experiences, when not tempered by humility and obedience, can be misleading and even dangerous, leading one away from true union with God. One of the most notable aspects of Francis's life, from the Orthodox perspective, was his stigmata, the physical marks resembling the wounds of Christ. Seraphim Rose emphasized that stigmata are unknown in Orthodox tradition and should be viewed with extreme caution. True Orthodox saints do not seek to physically imitate Christ's crucifixion. Their sanctity is measured not by miraculous signs, but by inner transformation, repentance, and union with God. Rose warned that phenomena like stigmata, visions, and other extraordinary mystical experiences, while possibly genuine, could also arise from psychological or demonic sources, and thus cannot serve as proof of holiness. In this sense, Francis's stigmata and mystical experiences, however sincere, were examples of the kind of spiritually dangerous focus on external or sensational signs that Orthodox tradition warns against. Another significant critique from Rose concerns Francis's theological emphasis. Francis tended to focus on the humanity and suffering of Christ, portraying him in an intensely emotional, sentimental way, often emphasizing his humility and poverty. Rose argued that Orthodox spirituality, in contrast, emphasizes not only Christ's human suffering, but also his resurrection, divine glory, and transfiguration. By focusing almost exclusively on the earthly suffering of Christ, Rose felt that Francis's spirituality risked becoming sentimental and emotional, appealing to feelings more than to true repentance and the rigorous transformation of the soul. Orthodox spirituality aims for a balance. While compassion for Christ's humanity is important, it must lead to deeper spiritual purification and participation in divine life, not merely emotional experience. Father Seraphim also situated Francis within a broader critique of Western Christianity. He saw Francis as representative of a Western tendency toward imaginative, emotional, and personal spiritual experience, which developed after the Orthodox Catholic Schism. In the Western approach, according to Rose, prayer and devotion often prioritize visions, feelings, and mystical phenomena over ascetic discipline, obedience, and guidance from elders. Francis, in this light, was sincere and morally upright, but his approach exemplified a system where personal experience could substitute for spiritual discernment and tested ascetic practice, leaving one vulnerable to prelest. Despite these criticisms, Rose did not regard Francis as a hypocrite or malicious figure. On the contrary, he recognized the moral zeal, courage, and love for the poor that characterized Francis's life. His critique was theological and spiritual, not personal or vindictive. Francis's intentions were pure, but according to Rose, his methods and emphasis could mislead those who followed him spiritually. In other words, Francis's devotion might inspire admiration in the West, but from an Orthodox standpoint, it illustrates how spiritual sincerity alone is not enough to guarantee true sanctity. It must be paired with humility, obedience, ascetic discipline, and a focus on transformation of the soul rather than on visionary or emotional experiences.